Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the Waterman and D-Train Show.
Digitized live in that computer studio in Cape Coral, Florida. It's the Waterman and D-Train Show. Dave is not here for a very good reason. No ball busting tonight. We will get to that in a moment, but I'm not here by myself. We're continuing the bullshit with the camera hooked up on the TV because OBS does not do what it promises it does when it comes to incorporating your Skype feed into OBS. I've tried, people. It doesn't work. But joining us live from Las Vegas is my brother, as always, Gordon. What's going on, fella?
Oh, lots and lots. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, all things considered. Just to bring people up to speed, no, it is not Dave's fault that we're having a Monday show. It's Gordon's fault, ladies and gentlemen. So blame Gordon.
Mine. Yep, I was our Easter yesterday.
Now, we kind of touched on it a little bit last week, but we really didn't get too in-depth into it. And that is, for whatever reason, the Greeks feel it's not necessary to follow Easter with everybody else, that they need to do it on their own time, in their own way. How does that work?
It's the Julian calendar. It's actually the old calendar we still follow.
Well, if we follow it, then how come we're not following it?
It's considered kind of the Eastern Orthodox Church. It's actually based out of a city I will still refer to as Constantinople.
Istanbul is Constantinople. Now it's Istanbul and Constantinople. Been a long time gone. Constantinople in the moonlit night. Yeah, anyhow.
And it was something about the Turks, right?
Oh, yeah. Why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. They might be giants for those of you who are interested.
There's actually some interesting things in there that will totally shut down the whole Islam, Christians are horrible thing. In that church, in the head area, there is actually a letter from one Mr. Muhammad that's basically said, leave the Orthodox alone, let them practice.
Well, we can't do that.
Oh, no, God, no.
So before we move on any further, Dave is not here for a very good reason, and I'm not going to go over it because it's not my place to go over. It's a family issue, but if you listen to last week's episode at all, he kind of touched on it. I will just leave it at that point and say best thoughts are with Dave and his family, and I'm sure he will be on Stan and Haney this Friday and probably be back here on Sunday, God willing. But no bullshit. All jokes aside, we usually bust Dave's balls when he's not here. He actually told me he was coming. He told me what was going on, and I told him to please take the night off, that what he has to deal with right now is far more important than this bullshit podcast. So I actually told him to stay home and not to come. He said, are you sure? I don't want to let you guys and the fans down. I said, no, stay home. So no joking, all honesty, I told Steve to Dave home. I told Dave to stay home tonight because there's no reason for him to be here to deal with this nonsense.
You are such a stand-up guy.
No, I'm sitting down.
Well, that's true. Although, to short people, it still looks like you're standing.
Hey, it's a short man's world. We're all just living in it.
I've got a lumpy skull to prove it.
Ain't that the truth? I just want to get into this real quick. When's the last time you really fucked yourself up?
Physically?
Yeah, physically.
When I blew out my shoulder in 2013.
Now, what does it feel like when one blows out their shoulder?
Well, I can tell you what happened. I was actually benching, and I was doing a warm-up set, so I just had a couple of 45s on there, but it was the sound that was worse than anything. I was lifting, and all of a sudden I could hear rattling through my body and through my headphones the sound of beef jerky just tearing.
Beef jerky?
Beef jerky.
Original or peppered?
It doesn't matter because when you tear beef jerky, needless of the flavor, especially if it's real dry, it's got that sound to it. And I felt that.
It has that burning to it, right?
Oh, yeah. So what happened is I got the weight up and I was like, this is not good. It was a sharp pain in my left shoulder, right on the outside edge. I said, yeah, I'm going home. Went home, went through about a week to go to a doctor. Come to find out it was a full rotator cuff.
See, it's hitting both of us tonight.
Rotator cuff tear and a almost full labrum. So I had two things going on. One was the labrum's kind of in your front of your shoulder, right where you connect, and then your rotator's on the outside.
Now, does the
Uh,
front part, does it feel like it radiates down to the center of your chest, and that's where your chest plate is?
Not really. It was more the pain would come when you go to lift your arm like this. I know this is great pod, but lift your arm up, and you just couldn't. It just the pain would be so great that you'd stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I mean, and to be quite honest, that's probably the worst injury I've had in my life with all the years of snowboarding, skating, and mountain biking. This tear, which is probably actually years in the making, from eating shit and landing on my shoulder.
Well, the reason I asked, as most of y'all know, the reason I got into running and I started beating you guys over the head with boring tale of me running long distances, which I know you guys don't really care about. But I got into that because I kind of messed up my elbow. I don't know if it was punching a punching bag, but what started happening is I was discovering I was getting pain from my elbow radiating down my forearm into my hands, and it would get to the point where I was dropping stuff at work. And so I needed to give my arms and my hands time. The only thing I could figure was either from hitting the hard-ass punching bag, even though I was wrapping my hands and wearing the UFC gloves, I was still getting bloody knuckles, just hitting it too hard. So I didn't know if I caused injury to my hand that way or if it was from the weightlifting. So I decided to back off on the heavy weightlifting, but I was concerned about gaining my weight back. And I was running decent amount on the treadmill simply to get the cardio in before you lift weights. Yes, I know the hardcore bodybuilders say you're supposed to lift your weights first and then run on the treadmill, otherwise you won't, blah, blah, blah. That's not the point. The point is, and so I started running, and I've been concerned about injury because 14, 15 years worth of skateboarding, my knees aren't the best, my ankles crack and pop. Snowboarding's not been great on my knees, but Gordon rode a hell of a lot longer than I did. But anyhow, so before I go running, I stretch. I'll drop the tailgate on my truck. I'll throw my big clodhopper foot up there, and I'll do my ballerina stretches and this, that, and the other thing. I'll go find a curb, and I'll kind of put my toes up on it and lean forward and all that. And so I got up the ass crack of dawn on Saturday morning, and I decided let's run another 10 miles. Now, I know this is a geographical thing, but let's face it, 75% of y'all live in this town, so you'll know what I'm talking about. I parked down at the Edison restaurant / golf course, run through the rich, super nice neighborhood on McGregor where all the doctors and lawyers live, run through that neighborhood, then down by all the new buildings where Pinter's Crab Shack is, all the way through downtown Fort Myers, up over the Edison Bridge, to Pondella, back up, blah, blah, blah. 10 miles. 2 miles into it, I'm running, right? And when you run, you're kind of pumping like this. A little twisty action up top, nothing big. And I felt that pop, and I got a burning sensation right between my shoulder blades. I was like, ugh. I couldn't breathe. I almost felt like somebody punched me or threw a baseball and hit me right in between the shoulder blades. And so I walked it off, and I ran the other 8 miles and finished my 10 miles. It wasn't a big deal, but then I woke up the next morning. And that's why I asked the question. It's not only burning behind my shoulder blade, but it's radiating down and kind of hurts in my chest plate too. It feels better today, but it's like I'm running, not lifting. You would think you got to stretch your lower back and, loosen up your hand. Am I supposed to do push-ups before I run now? Whoever thought you would throw out your upper back while running?
You need to do full body stretching.
I bend over and do like the the yoga style stuff, but I'm not like doing butterflies and push-ups and shit. I guess I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, you will. Man, you probably strained something. Hopefully, it wasn't anything major.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah, running is my weak point, so I really can't put in a whole lot of info on that one. But yeah, I think you need to focus on stretching right now more than anything, and warming up.
Yeah, I think so. Real quick, for those of you who sent out an email, because I posted another photo on Sunday-ish. Yeah, Sunday. Posted a picture of a stack of Waterman D-Train Show super extra small stickers. They're free. Leave it alone. Saying, hey, if you want a sticker, send me an email and I will send one your way. Real quick, John, yours hit the mail today. Jeff, yours is in the mail today. The cat's over at the Unsupervised Podcast. Yours went out on Friday. Alan, yours went out today. And believe it or not, I believe this cat's name is Uber. Yours is out today as well. For the rest of you, if you want a super extra small sticker that no one can see, simply email me at info@d-410.com with your name, address, and I will pay for postage and envelope and my time. And I will send you a super extra small sticker that no one can see and that you can complain about on Facebook that the free sticker you got is too small. So thanks for that.
Thanks, assholes who complain about a blowjob.
Well, it's, working in radio, I kind of learned that when you're giving away stuff for free, even on the smallest level. I mean, yes, we hear about people complaining about it when it comes to the government giving out stuff for free. People don't appreciate it. When rich kids get cars given to them for free, they don't appreciate it. They run the shit out of it. They think their dad's an asshole, even though he bought them a car. Even on the micro level, when something is free and you give it away, there are those people who don't appreciate it. Yes, it's a sticker, I know. But it's a sticker that cost me almost $1. It's a sticker that cost me $12 for a book of stamps, not to mention a box of envelope, my time, driving to the post office, all that crap. So there is some cost behind it, but I don't care. I just want to give them out to people, so just don't complain about it. That's all. It's free.
Exactly. I mean, it's free. You're promoting the show, and we thank you wholeheartedly for that.
And once again, the reason I'm giving them away for free is because I wouldn't expect anybody to buy them, because I wouldn't buy them, because here's why I wouldn't buy them. In order to sell something like that, you have the initial cost. Let's just say in this case, for simple math, it's $1. They're a little bit cheaper than that, but for the sake of this, it's $1. Now it's a small sticker for $1. Okay, so I'd have to come up the initial money. Well, I need to mark it up so it at least pay for half of the restocking, if not the whole restocking. So let's go the whole restocking route. Now it's $2. Do I want to charge somebody $2 for this sticker? No, but that's the problem. Because there's also the cost of postage, the box of envelopes, once again, my time. And so at that point, no one's going to want to buy these super small stickers for $5. There's no way. I wouldn't ask anybody or expect anybody to, but the bigger ones would cost even more money. So I buy the small ones out of pocket. I give them away for free. Thank you for those who want them, and cool. That's it. Once again, I can't bring myself to sell a $5 sticker because I wouldn't buy it, and I wouldn't expect anybody else to buy it. It's just, the cost analysis on it, it's just, there's no return on investment. And not that I'm looking to make a profit, but I at least would want them to pay for themselves, to restock themselves. That way I'm not constantly moving money around on stickers, stamps, and envelopes.
Yeah, I mean, it's swag. Swag is swag,
Let's get the uncomfortable finance talk out of the way. Real quick, you want to promote the show, Amazon.com. Go to d-410.com if you're an Amazon user. Click on the Amazon link on the right-hand side of your screen if you're on your computer. Way the fuck down at the bottom if you're on a phone or a tablet. The way WordPress works, and Gordon learned this the hard way over the weekend, it puts all those cool shit that's usually on the right side way at the bottom underneath all the posts. So if you're on your phone, you got to go all the way to the bottom. If you're on your computer, it'll be on the right-hand side. You have an Amazon link. Click on that, add to your bookmarks. Anything you buy on Amazon will not cost you any extra money, but they will kick a couple of cents to me after your 30-day return policy expires. So don't even try that. I'll buy some stuff to help them out, and then I'll just return it. Don't work that way.
Yeah, you got to buy it legit.
And the other thing is, and this next one, I'll be honest with you, I didn't feel good about doing this, but it's kind of the way the wind blows, especially with podcasts before the advertising and marketing comes in, and that's Patreon. How it works is you become a patron or a subscriber. Once again, I'm perfectly keep people's finances in mind when I do these sort of things, and so the lowest tier, basically you pay a month, and much like I say about my gym, it's not one of those places that say, oh, it's $2 a month, but you got to pay the full year up front. No, they literally take $2 out of your bank account. I tried to go 50 cents. Honestly, I did. They wouldn't let me go that low. So the smallest tier is the $1 bala. If you're broke like our friend Dave, but you want to help us out, you want to kick us $1 a month, great. We'll take your dollar. We love it. It'll help pay for things we need to get paid for around here. The next one I think is $3, and it's called the OG5, which ironically it's $3.50 a month. You want to kick us $3.50 a month, that's great. And then the big one is only $5 a month. If you sign up for that one, like after month 3, I will send you a t-shirt of your choice. I'll just email you. You tell me what shirt you want, what size, and I will kick you a shirt as a thank you for buying the $5 account. So those are two ways. Obviously, you can buy the t-shirts at d-410.com. Gordon will talk to you guys about sleeves when we get to the news. But anywho, it's been a long day.
That one went left.
Well, you are in Vegas. You could be selling spliffs, but anyway.
Yeah, not this guy.
How long is a minute?
60 seconds.
But to you, how long is a minute?
A minute? How long a minute is depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes it could take forever, and other times it's quick, but I can get a lot done in it.
I don't think people realize how long a minute truly is, and I never did either until I worked in radio, and then I found out that I could leave my office, run down to the restroom, urinate, wash my hands, get back to my office in less than 30 true real-time seconds. And that comes up here at my house a lot because we'll set the alarm when we leave, and then inevitably, someone will forget something, and there's, oh, well, we just set the alarm. It's like, we got a minute. That's not enough time. You'd be surprised how long that minute is.
Yeah, you open the door and there's still 37
Yeah, he'll open the door and it says 45 seconds countdown. He's like, well, it's plenty of time. But it's just, I find it interesting, especially if people have never worked, whether it's video producing or working in the news or audio or editing, anything. You want a little fun exercise, well, it requires some audio editing software, but take a 2-minute bit and try to edit it down to 30 seconds. You will realize how long 30 seconds is because you're trimming. I mean, how short 30 seconds is and how long a minute is because you're constantly trimming to get down to that 30 seconds. But a minute is really a long-ass time, and it's kind of goes back to people's concept of time. And kind of like people say, well, I can walk out the door and come back. My dog acts like I've been gone for 10 minutes because their concept of time is just different than ours. But I find it interesting at different ages and different stages in life, people's concept of how long or how short a minute truly is, or 5 minutes or 2 minutes.
Yeah, the older I get, I could just blink and a minute's gone.
And where this comes in real handy is cooking. Someone, hey, go put that steak down, let it cook for 5 minutes and flip it. And then we talk about on the show a lot that when young cats first start cooking, they're 18, 19, 20, whatever, they start grilling out for the first time, they're trying to grill hamburgers. The thing people mess up the most is they flip their meat too much. Once again, let it sit, 5, then flip it. But people don't set a timer, and their internal time is off. And so what they think has been 5 minutes has only been 2.5, and thus their constant manipulating of their meat, it just screws everything up. Because once again, people don't truly understand how long a minute really is.
Yeah, and some people like to just over manipulate their meat.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's always fun to do too.
Exactly. I mean, and that's just it. It's the minute thing. What's really interesting about it is when you are tasked with filling a minute or two with speech, and then all of a sudden it's like, fuck, I got 15 seconds left. What am I going to do with this? How am I going to fill this? How many more ums do I need to throw in?
Exactly. It's kind of like when you're in high school and you had a mandatory how many words you had to write essay. And so you put a lot of ands, a lot of adjectives, repetitive adjectives in there because you didn't want to actually stretch out your thought. You were just counting words.
Yep.
And
you throw in a bunch of therefores and howevers and truth be tolds, and you can name whatever adjective or filler that you want to use.
Yeah, I think a lot of people learn that the hard way if they ever get brave enough to do stand-up comedy, when they're actually, okay, I want to go up on an open mic night and do 2 minutes, and then they get up there and they're a minute into it and they're like dying. They're like, oh shit, this is a lot longer than I thought.
So where are you guys from?
Yeah, right?
How's the weather? I'm dying up here. Where's the tomatoes?
This weekend has made me realize how out of touch I am with pop culture. It's not an old thing because a lot of old people are into all the shit that's been all over Facebook, but for the last 3 days it's been Game of Thrones and Endgame, this and that, and it's just like, I don't watch or give a good goddamn about either one of them, but apparently the rest of the world does, and it's like, am I that out of touch or I just not care?
Yeah, I'm out of touch with you, although the Deadwood thing is starting to creep in, and that one I'm in touch with. Unfortunately, I don't have HBO.
Well, I'm in love with Deadwood too, but I don't think I'd ever get to that level. I mean, yes, I posted the new trailer, and I thought it was super cool. They put Coulter Wall as the theme for that trailer, not the theme for the show, but that trailer. But what confuses me, and they've been talking about doing this final movie / final episode of Deadwood. It's 12 years since the show Rome took the budget for it. Talking about a bad decision on HBO's part.
Yes, but then they kept saying, but Deadwood's just too expensive.
Compared to building Rome?
Exactly.
But
let's build a little dirt mining town.
And so it's been 12 years, and if you look at the previews, and I just rewatched when I got my Amazon Prime, I rewatched all three seasons of Deadwood.
Yes, 3 seasons.
And you look at this movie trailer, and it's clearly almost picking up. At least it looks like it's picking up right off the last scene, except for the fact that everybody's gray and wrinkly. They didn't even bother with CGI. With the way the story left, now, for all we know, Hirsch could have left town for 10 years and then came back, but Deadwood doesn't look like it has really progressed in 10 years at all. So I don't know what the timeline is, or if we're all just supposed to accept the fact that we all grow old and we're supposed to ignore the fact that Bullock's completely almost white now. Charlie Utter looks like he's about ready to walk into a grave. So, I mean, I don't know how they're going to address the time lapse, or if we're all, once again, just supposed to accept it. I was kind of anticipating a little assistance from CGI because they are so good at doing that, especially with all these movies where actors have passed in between the series or, you know, things like that. And so I was a little surprised to see how naturally they're just taking it on the movie when it comes to their age.
Yeah, and that's just it, because the real town of Deadwood did not last very long at all as a mining town. So it's going to be interesting how they pencil this out and how they structure it to hopefully, God, I hope it makes sense. And the writers of that show have been very good in the past. So I'm going to hold out hope and hope that I don't have to throw my head in my hands and walk away.
Well, what you do when the show comes out, you go and order HBO, and then once it's over, you cancel it.
That's probably what's going to
I
happen.
used to do that with Dexter. When the season of Dexter would come on, I'd call and order it, and then once it was over, I'd cancel it.
And now you can stream it all on Netflix.
Yeah, because they don't sign you to a contract when it comes to individual channels. It's just the overall service. And so, yeah, you just activate. And Ray Donovan, I used to do it for that as well.
That is a fantastic show.
I didn't watch the last season.
Very good. I tell you what's really a good show is Billions.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, it is great. Full of the best one-liners you'll ever hear. I almost like it because I equate with what I do in the blue-collar world with bidding projects and just going after them with our competitors. It's very similar type of mentality. Is very alpha male. Is very... Basically, our saying where I work is, you don't have feelings back here. You're not allowed to have feelings back here. If you do have feelings back here, you will probably be shown the door or leave in a heap of tears.
Yeah, via the Facebook live stream, Brian said Shameless is a good show. Yes, I binge watched. God, it's so damn long though. I think I watched like the first 4 seasons, and then I just kind of, I didn't really get over it. I just started watching other shit just because I kind of got burnt out. It's still a good show, but I just, when you're binge watching 6 or 7 seasons, you got to change it up. The 2 shows I just got done watching, and it's funny because my Netflix recommendations are a lot different than other people's in the houses. A lot of my stuff has subtitles and is in German and or French because all the World War II stuff I watch. But Rebellion, have you seen that at all?
I have not seen Rebellion.
Rebellion is badass. It's about the rise of the IRA during World War One. How the IRA got to, that's for those of you who don't know, that's the Irish Republic Army. How that got its start is pretty cool. The other one I watched was Traitors. Have you heard anything about that one?
No, I have not.
2 seasons. Now, both of these shows were made for the BBC. And so the cool thing about that is they're in Europe, and 2, they have the authentic languages and accents, but both these shows are in English, no subtitles. Some could say Rebellion should have some with the thick Irish stuff, but that's neither here nor there. Traitors is cool because it takes place right after World War II. Yeah, so here he goes with the World War II stuff. It takes place right after World War II.
You're such a World War II nerd.
It takes place right after World War II, and it takes place in Britain. And it's about how Churchill lost the election right after the war, which, for those of you who don't know, yes, the guy led his country through 10 years of war and then was promptly booted out. And a socialist leader and a socialist administration was brought in. And this show, Traitors, is about how a few of the Americans from the OSS was trying to get our CIA up and running. And it's basically has to do with, in Britain, how they took some of these, a handful of these British citizens and who had high roles in the administration to basically spy, to try to figure out what the socialists were doing. in Parliament and all that. And that's a really good show. I think it's only 2 seasons long, but I watched both of those. One of them that was good, but it is in German, so if you don't like subtitles, you're not going to be down with it. But it's called Babylon Berlin. That is a pretty badass show. That's a 1920s show. It's kind of like a German equivalent of Boardwalk Empire, but that's
Okay.
a great show. Did you watch Boardwalk Empire at all?
I did not. We had actually just got out of HBO and went over to Showtime at that point in time.
That's an interesting one because there are true people in it, and Nucky Thompson didn't exist. The guy's name was Nucky Thomas. So what they did is they changed his character up enough that they can do artistic licensing because the real guy wasn't as much of a shithead as Steve Buscemi's character in the show, and so by changing his name just enough, they were able to write fictional characters into it along with the real people, but make Nucky do things that he never did in real life because without getting sued. Because once again, the real guy Nucky Thompson or Nucky Thomas wasn't as bad as Steve Buscemi's character. Because one of the things I like to do when I watch these historical shows, even if they do have a lot of artistic licensing, is to go out and research the real people, see what they look like, see if they really existed. And so that's a great one, but 60% of the main storyline is completely fabricated for the sake of the TV show. Obviously, yes, Al Capone did exist and Lucky Luciano existed, but most of the other main characters were loosely based off of other people but didn't really exist.
Speaking of that, and this will be a plug for a local attraction if anybody ever finds themselves in Vegas, go to the Mob Museum. It's 3 floors and it's pretty intense. It actually even talks about Newport, Kentucky, and the mob connections there too. But they've got the Valentine Wall from the Valentine Day Massacre. So they've actually got that there. They've reassembled it with all the holes and everything in it. They've got some pretty graphic photos from crime scenes and
now, was
deaths
that,
of
not to
mobsters.
interrupt you, was that cinder block or red clay brick?
If I remember correct, it was a regular brick wall. It was not red that I remember.
Well, the color's not what I'm more talking about the medium, because if it was quote unquote red clay, you figure the bullets would have destroyed it in a manner which that once it was taken down, it wouldn't have been reconstructed easily, whereas cinder block would have consumed the bullets better and, and held
and
their
I guess
shape.
that would be some of the question. How much did they have to refabricate to give it the look? Because when museums do rehabilitate something and that they really do a lot of work on their own end. It's like we used to go to the Air Force Museum out there in Dayton, and you go to look at the aircraft.
Wright Patterson.
Yeah, at Wright Pat. When I was in Nerd Alert, Civil Air Patrol, we went out there for our little basic training thing, and we actually got to go back behind the scenes to see where they would take all these historical aircraft and rework them and take the engines out, because they take all the engines out, they take all the fuel cells out. If there's some broken spars in the wings, they fix those, and there's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money that goes into it. But and I'm sure that happens all the way down, and you've seen anything they restore. You've seen on even these TV shows when they restore, it looks new, but it's a completely new way of doing it.
Well, and as you're talking about it, I was thinking for you contractors out there, one of the things a lot of places do to get around building permits and getting new code is when you quote unquote restore a house, you can knock down 3 of the 4 walls. You can completely level the whole place, leave one wall up. Usually it's an end wall where the chimney is or something, but if you leave up one wall, it's no longer new construction. It's considered a remodel or a repair, and so city code is, at least in a lot of states, from what I understand, because I've seen this happen in a lot of different states, it's a little more lenient on how far back you have to go as far as code compliance and all that. And once again, you also see in the automotive world where they'll completely rebuild a car from the ground up, but because they have the original, they cut the chunk of metal out of the frame and out of the chassis that has the VIN number on it, weld it back in, it's still considered a restoration and not a whole new car with somebody else's serial numbers on it. So yeah, it does happen a lot where you think something's the original, but truthfully it's only like 15 to 20% at best.
Yeah. I think you're right. And even then, even with let's go back to construction. Even though it may be an old building and it has 3 or 4 walls, a lot of codes these days require you to bring, especially the electrical, up to current codes.
Well, I can understand the electrical because of fire and all that. And once again, if you're tearing the whole damn building down with one wall, then that's not going to be a problem.
No, it won't. And they do a pretty good job of reproducing, the look these days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at all the faux wood that looks like it's aged, right? And they're even vinyl planks. And I'll probably be guilty and throw those down upstairs in my house because I like the way it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. I was driving around the other day, and I had a thought, and I thought of you, and I thought of my friend from back in high school named Chad because his father had one, and it made for a great party mobile back in Ohio. And now you may see them because you live out in the desert, and they probably make for good desert racing vehicles or sand dune jumping vehicles. Do you know what car I'm going to ask you about that I haven't probably seen one or realize I've seen one in at least 15 years?
Isuzu Amigo?
Yes. The Amigo. Or no, the Rodeo. Either one of them.
The Rodeo, and also actually the Honda version of the Rodeo was called the Passport back in the day.
What was the difference between the Amigo and the Rodeo? The Rodeo was hard
The
top.
Amigo was short like a Jeep. So it wasn't full length, it wasn't 4-door. It was a 2-door deal.
Yeah. Chad had the Rodeo. And and he only wrecked it twice.
Who had that Rodeo?
My buddy Chad, my senior year of high school, he was a junior. It was me, Chad, and Mike. We hung out all the time. I don't want to say the cat's name on his last name on here because he's not here to defend himself. In fact, I say he wrecked his dad's truck twice. But no, I know those things had a lot of mechanical issues. At least apparently that's why you don't see them around that much. But those things were badass little. I guess they're considered SUVs at the time.
Fun fact. Those were built in a plant in Lafayette, Indiana, which is now the Subaru USA plant.
Really? Is Isuzu still around?
I think they're around in Asia.
Because now that I think about it, I can't even tell you the last time I seen a Isuzu.
Say that again?
I said, now that I think about it, I can't remember the last time I seen even heard the name said.
Yeah, I think after 2000, it was pretty much dead.
Was that an American company though?
No, it was Japanese.
Yeah. Who was the parent company of them?
That I don't know. I could do some quick research though.
That's neither here nor there.
Right. They may have been their own standalone company. I think they had a lot of tie-in with GM though.
While we're on the subject of vehicles and automobiles, Gordon, you may be familiar with this story, but I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I did find something. There's a line in here that I thought was curious that both the designer and the news reporter just kind of went over. Elon Musk vows fully self-driving Teslas this year and robot taxis ready for next year. Tesla will have fully self-driving cars ready by the end of the year and, quote, robo-taxi versions, one that can ferry passengers without any behind the wheel, ready on the streets next year, according to Elon Musk. He laid out a vision, and now this is the weird part, right? He laid out a vision in which current and future Tesla owners can use their cars that they use every day as their commuter cars, their daily drivers, to make money, i.e. moonlight at night, because they're autonomous driving. So, you take your car to work, you take your kids to school and all that, but at night while you're sleeping, your car basically becomes a self-driving Uber, right?
So then it comes out all banged up, dinged up, trash all over
exactly.
the fucking
I didn't have to read the rest of the story. That's the first thing I thought, and I don't know if it's because I'm super anal about my cars. And, for example, my truck, I only had it a few months before my daughter got out of the front seat with her book bag that had clasp on the front and put a big old gash down my dashboard. So I can't have nothing nice.
But that hurt down to the soul, didn't it?
What? And I'm driving a 25 sticker price base model Tacoma, and that killed me. Non-self-driving Teslas, just your run-of-the-mill Tesla, what are they, about 130 grand, give or take? Maybe a little cheaper now?
The P85, actually I think it's P100Ds now, around 130. I think you can get a base model around 60, 70,000. If you go with the Tesla 3, I think it starts in the high 30s, low 40s.
What's a Porsche Lamborghini cost?
About as much as my house.
Okay, so we can all say that a base model Tesla for 130 grand is a lot of money.
It is an extreme amount of money.
Now, about 38 minutes ago, we were talking about how people treat things when they are free.
Yeah.
And we all grew up with the saying, nothing parties like a rental.
Yeah, nothing parties like a rental. Treat it like a rental
And
car.
I
It
know
ain't mine.
our sister makes money driving Uber. Luckily, she hasn't had too many problems. I know a guy here who was making money, who worked in radio. He would come in and talk about people puking in his cars. Uber would come back and, pay for it. But going back another episode ago, we were talking about, Larry and I were talking about it on the little side thing we did, which is a reference I made to Clerks when he put the newspapers out, and he's laying behind the counter with his girlfriend, and he has a couple quarters there, and she said, how do you trust that people only take one and pay what they take for it? And to which he said, honesty through paranoia.
Right.
So if you're the driver of the Uber, honesty through paranoia, people in the back seat are going to be less likely, not all the time, but less likely to act like an asshole and destroy your vehicle when you're sitting in front of them. Now, we've all seen public restrooms. People like to carve their initials in the mirrors. We've all seen all air pumps. We talked about 2 weeks ago how air pumps are taking the abuse that all the public phones used to get. How are you going to trust that your
initials in the gas station pumps at the credit card machine?
Exactly. How are you going to trust that your $130,000 base model Tesla is not going to come home, one, full of puke, two, with tagging on the back seat if you live in Vegas? We don't have that too much. We do have some tagging here, but cuts in your
Last count,
seat.
we've got over 130 gangs in Las Vegas.
How are you going to enforce the no smoking rule if no one's in your car?
And that's a good question. Let's talk about no smoking. There's a whole lot of no vaping, but how can you enforce that?
Yeah, if no one's in your car, you can have as many placards as no smoking. Once again, base model, $130,000.
Oh, the motherfucker would have to be decorated at GoPros and cameras and streaming to your, how else can you do it? And then people don't care anyway because they're so used to cameras.
And then, which that point, your miles will be driving because now you're sitting at home in front of your computer monitor watching your live stream to make. And at that point, what are you going to do? Lock the guy in your car? Now you're getting arrested for kidnapping.
Exactly. It doesn't work out like when the cops have that bait car, does it?
No, not at all. Because I would love to see someone try that. I guarantee you, if you block someone in your car remotely because they're smoking or damaging your car, here's what's going to happen. You're probably only be overnight, but your ass is going to go to jail for kidnapping. And you're going to say, but they're destroying my car. And they're going to say to you, the same thing we said 3 weeks ago when talking about going out to try to defend your car with a firearm when someone's breaking in and steal your car stereo. The answer is going to be, sir, that's what insurance is for. You cannot prevent someone from leaving the confines of your vehicle because they're vandalizing it. That's what your insurance is for. That's a civil suit. But now you just made it a misdemeanor or a felony by kidnapping.
And then if you talk about insurance, so say all these cars that people own are out there moonlighting and making money for them, and they're getting damaged. Now they've got insurance claims. Well, that insurance claim, those increases will get passed on to all of us.
Well, not to mention, now obviously if you have a $130,000 base model Tesla, you can afford to report that. But you know as well as I do, a lot of these Uber drivers, they don't exactly report all their mileage to the insurance company because that shit goes through the roof.
Yes, it does. Not hell, they probably don't even report on their 1099s.
And so it's just like, so once again, oh, and by the way, now I know some D-Train, you're not a lawyer. How do you know that if I were to remotely lock a vandal inside my $130,000 base model Tesla, that I would be charged for kidnapping? Because I have life experience, and I know people who've made, which I also have on my list of shit, we'll just start this now, we'll go off the bad life choices. And this particular person is a female, not a male, and when she was in high school, she was at a party, and there was some bitch there she didn't like. And she followed said bitch out to said bitch's car. And they got in a little vocal dissertation through the driver's side
settle some bitch hash.
passenger window, or the driver's side window with the window down, to which the perpetrator leaned through the car window, grabbed the keys to the ignition, and loftily tossed them into the open field across the street. Guess what she just did? She's preventing someone from leaving a location when they want to leave. Thus, she originally, luckily when she went to court, had a judge who didn't want to destroy her life, but her original arrest charge was kidnapping, because she was preventing someone who wanted to leave the current location under their own power from doing so.
Of course, the argument would be, well, that person can get out of said car and walk.
Yeah, by getting out of the car, they're putting themselves into danger because they know the person outside of the car wants to physically hurt them and is trying to reach their window and physically hurt them.
Yeah, good
and
point.
You just remove their only means of escape.
Which could be used as a weapon.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Yeah, locking a dude in your car when they're fucking it up will do you no good.
Yeah. God. Life was so much easier. I had this thought. Life was so much easier when you're young and naive and you think you know everything.
What are consequences? Don't be a pussy.
Oh, because you know everything about everything. Now, one of the things that stopped happening in my life when I left Columbus, Ohio, is my cars have stopped getting broken into.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
Now, I have a hypothesis. The reason that every car I ever owned while living in Grove City in Columbus, Ohio got broken into is because I grew up in said towns, and not only did my friends know where I lived, so did my enemies. So did people who didn't know me but saw me driving down the street, heard my system, and said something to somebody who did know me and knew where I lived, thus knew where to find my car to break into it. Now, simply a hypothesis because, once again, I left Columbus, Ohio, and I moved to Long Beach, California. Still had subwoofers, still had amplifiers that I had to actually... This is an interesting story. When I moved to Long Beach, California, the subwoofer I had in the trunk of my Escort was out of Gordon's car that had gotten broken into, where his head unit was stolen, but it was a No. Back to your Isuzu. Your Isuzu broke down, correct?
Yes, it took a shit in Vegas.
Uh-huh. No, it took a shit in Vegas, but it got towed to where?
Long Beach.
And you had a subwoofer in the back of that, did you not?
I did.
Jensen Solberg 10-inch subwoofer?
Yep, isobarically loaded.
Which is still in my garage to this day. Before I moved to California, I was driving a sweet-ass 1995 Ford Escort LX. Hatchback, Mazda engine, zoom, mother. I had two Sherwin Vega 12 Solberg speakers with a Phoenix Gold amp in the back, and the thump pounded. Now, I never claimed I've had ESP or even ESPN, but one of the craziest things that happened to me, my ex-wife had left at this point, and I had my roommate Jason. We were both still working at Horton, and it was like Sunday night, 2 in the morning, and I was in the shower, and I got this weird feeling. And I'm putting on my Adidas warm-ups, I'm walking downstairs, and Jason's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to go get my shit out of my car, because my car is getting broken into tonight. No lie, 5:30 in the morning, neighbors pounding on my door. There's somebody out here at a van, they just took a box out of your hatchback. Well, I took the CDs out of my car, I took off the detachable face. Yes, young kids, we used to have radios with the faces popped off so dickheads wouldn't steal them. So I took off the detachable face, took all my CDs, but I didn't take the amp out because that's a whole lot of work. And lo and behold, my 12-inch Sherwin Vegas and my Phoenix Gold amp got stolen out of my Escort. And so when I drove to California, didn't have a system until your car broke down. So
Yes.
you gave me the speaker out of your rodeo that took a shit.
The Amigo. Yes.
The Amigo. And you took, and I still had this little generic 25 50 watt amp. I think you may even had it. I had an amplifier that I used to have in my Chevy S10 back in high school, but it was like generic, super generic. Bought it at Odd Lots, right? When my S10 got broken into and my bass cannons got stolen out behind my seat and my Alpine head unit got stolen, they didn't take the amp because it was like $30 and it was from Odd Lots. It was so generic the car thieves didn't even steal it. And so now fast forward to after high school, I got your speaker box out of your car that broke down, the amp that was left out of your car that had gotten broken into, that they left, and my car that had got broken into that didn't. So that thing was so generic it survived 2 car robberies and no one wanted to steal it. Put all that in my Escort. Drove all around through California, bumping, going out to West Covina, Pomona, Long Beach, LA. Car never got broken into. Moved down here to Fort Myers, Cape Coral. Transported all that into the back of the Firebird that I bought off of Dad. Never got stolen. Finally, the Firebird took a shit. I got my Chevy Colorado, and that was the end of my subwoofer days because I don't have room in the truck or even in my Tacomas for subwoofers anymore, so it's sitting out in my garage. And Tacomas have pretty good, decent factory systems, but it's kind of funny now that I go back and think about it that my final stereo system was a hodgepodge of speakers and amps from your car that broke down and 2 of our cars that got broken into, but the equipment was so cheap no one wanted to steal it.
But it still worked.
Mm-hmm. And I've actually been thinking about building a box for behind my seat in Tacoma and take that speaker out of that Jensen box, but I got to get the air dimensions right, and it's a whole lot of work, and I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but it is something I have thought about.
So let the listeners know, what kind of music and what were you bumping at the time?
Oh, God, everything.
I seem to remember one more than everything.
Well, I've talked about it. I'm old school juggalo from the way back. I've been listening to ICP since 1993 when Ringmaster came out. Ringmaster, Riddlebox, all that stuff. Dave and I have actually talked about it. That's how I got my World War II collection started. See, I lived in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, which we were a stone's throw away from Detroit, Michigan. And so, once again, with the background we had and the hormones we had when you're a teenage boy, skateboarder, angst, hey, ICP is right up your fucking alley. Depressed in the head and all that crazy stuff. So I listened to ICP for a long time, and they were only second to Kiss when it came to merchandise sales and selling albums without any radio coverage. Now, obviously, Kiss had a bunch of radio play. ICP rarely did. But anyhow, so I had all the shit. I had 2 copies of every comic book, one open, one not. Hey, we're getting a phone call. And so, long story short, I sold all that ICP shit on eBay, and I took all that money, and that's how I got all my World War II stuff. Waterman and D-Train show, who's this? Hello? Oh, we're going to go through this again.
Yo,
hey,
what's up?
Who's this?
You know who's this?
It sounds like, is that Chopper?
Yes, me.
Hey, Chopper, what's up? It's ironic you just called because I just started talking about World War II stuff. Chopper is one of my fellow World War II reenactors. And Chopper, I was just telling everybody how I was an old school juggalo from the way back. And it was all of my Insane Clown Posse comic books, flyers. I had every single original CD. I had the VHS tapes. I sold all that shit on eBay. And that's how I got my first M1 helmet. That's how I got my boots. And that's actually how I financed my very first impression in World War II stuff, was with selling all my old ICP merchandise. So you can laugh at me,
Right.
but it worked out best in the end.
Oh, yeah.
So how you been, fella?
Yeah, it's all right. Pretty good. So, yeah. Well, so we're still talking about the World War II stuff, right? What we do?
That's my other podcast, but we talk about it on here too, by all means. Chopper tends to do
I'll just...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, Chopper tends to do the German side, which nowadays is not, easy sailing because how everything's politicized, and so he's actually usually one of the guys I'm shooting at.
Yeah, I'm always the target.
Now you're working on
I do allies too.
You do allies.
What's interesting is Don's always on the American side. He's a huge World War II buff, but yet his favorite vehicles are Axis power vehicles.
Yeah, I don't know if Chopper will be able to hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. You probably won't be able, you won't be able to hear my brother because the way the phone system's set up. But basically what he was saying is it's interesting how I always do Allied stuff, but both my vehicles are from the Axis of Evil, i.e. my Volkswagen and my Tacoma. And my answer to that is, to the victors go the spoils. We kicked both of your asses in the wars. And you have great cars nowadays, great automobiles, and that's why I drive German cars and Jap trucks.
Right. Well, I ride a Chrysler right now, the Pacifica. So hey, That's pretty good.
Now, I saw a post on from you real quick, not to bore people with our history stuff, but you just started a pretty cool impression based on the your ethnicity and the direction you're going with that. Explain that to me real quick.
Oh, yeah. That's the 65th Infantry in Korea. The Puertorriqueño is the infantry of the Puerto Ricans that were doing the Korean War at the time, 1950s, and I already knew a couple of guys here, veterans from that time. And I talked to them many times, and many times I've tried to put that impression together. As you know, this past weekend there was a Puerto Rican parade in Orlando. I didn't participate in that one. So as soon as they put one up here in Kissimmee, I was thinking about talking to one of the coordinator to get Frank's Jeep or somebody and do an impression of the Korean War. So I'm halfway done with the uniforms. I just gotta get the HBTs, the boots, but everything else I have already, original ones too.
And that's very cool because when people hear about the Korean War, they very seldomly think about Puerto Ricans and the role they played in that war.
Right. They played a big, same thing like from the Civil War all the way up to now, So that's what I always portray, So, and it's pretty interesting because it's like a forgotten war,
Oh, absolutely. That's what it's known as, Korea, the Forgotten War.
Yeah, and when we have done a lot of the World War II, and I feel that they'd be left out, and I think we should start doing something for the Korean guys as well while they're still around,
Well, I couldn't agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartally. And tell you what, I'll reach out to you this week, and I will have you on What's the Scuttlebutt, and we'll talk about, we'll get into that on the What's the Scuttlebutt, and because that's more of the proper arena for that talk, because as you know, not everybody's down with the history like we are, but I greatly appreciate you calling in, Chopper, and I hope everything's going well with your health and all is good.
Yeah, it's ticking still. I rewind every night.
Make sure you do that, and I'll see you here soon, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Take it easy. Yeah, so he's a Puerto Rican who does German and also does Allied. He's a great guy. And, it's one of the cool things about the whole reenacting community is way before I ever got into that, I've seen more of the state of Florida in the last 6 years than I did the first 8 years I lived here because I have reasons to go places.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good way to travel a state that you're living in and learn the history and what's going on. That's fantastic.
Now, I had you get a story. Well, let's go ahead and start news and shit, and then do the news you want to cover, and then the one I asked you to cover, because I have an interesting update on that one.
All right. Well, this is news and shit, and it is brought to you by Sleeves, Sleeves.com. If you're looking for something to keep the sweat out of your eyes, your earbuds in your head, and you like to run, go to the gym, hell, you work construction, or you're out and about getting sweaty, fishing, you name it, head on over to Sleeves.com. And there you can enter the promo code D41040 for 40% off. Don has Sleeves. He's raving about them. I may head down that way myself here soon. So again, go to Sleeves.com, promo code 41040 for 40% off.
And even without the 40% off, these things are not expensive. You're like 12, depending on, I was looking at one because I just got an all blue one, and they have the buffs too. They're not just headbands. They got the buffs. They got the spats for if you play football. I bought some American flag tactical socks off there, but that's neither here nor there. They got a ton of stuff, but they actually have one of the headbands with the Kentucky State flag one. They have the Florida State flag one. They actually have shorts on there, all kinds of stuff. So just go out. But even without the promo code, the stuff's not expensive. I just stumbled onto it. This is not a paid advertisement. I do have a promo code. And much like Amazon, whenever you buy those items, not only are you saving 40%, but I actually get a decent kickback as well. So no, they're not paying for the advertising, but if you do buy stuff, you save 40%, and then I get a few cents on the dollar, and it actually works out well for both of us. But yeah, I was actually looking at their Kentucky State flag one, and I think it's like $13 without the discount.
All right, so science. We can agree that science and biology in particular are fairly accurate, right?
For the most part, except for when it comes to what damage eggs will do to you.
All right. Well, unfortunately, Nevada has joined a growing number of states allowing residents to choose the gender X on their state issued driver's license or identification card in addition to male or female M&F.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is a very hot button topic for reasons I have yet to understand, because to me biology is
Because you're
biology.
not woke.
What's that?
You're not woke. You're not down
I'm
for
not
the cause.
woke, so evidently we can turn our eye to science, which is, the agnostic and atheist way of viewing life, and say that it's how a person feels emotionally versus the biology. Anyway, the Department of Motor Vehicles implemented the option on April the 22nd as a final step in years-long effort to modernize policies towards transgendered residents and those who don't identify with either sex. Holy crap, my voice just dropped.
Hey, you hit puberty. Congratulations.
Well, there it is. Last year, the department changed the regulations to allow applicants to self-certify their gender on their ID with no further documentation required. So now that the DMV has completed its computer programming required, evidently it takes a lot of programming to have this X designation printed on the license and transmitted to outside agencies such as law enforcement and courts.
Oh, absolutely. Let's not forget what the scramble everybody's going through in 1999 when Y2K was coming up and none of the software had a drop down that said 2000 in it. Remember, they thought the entire world, the entire bank, the entire economy was going to collapse because once that clock hit midnight, if all the software wasn't updated to have the date of 2000, it was going to roll back to 1900 and we'd all be fucked.
Exactly. So we have now joined us here in the great state of Nevada, states such as, and this first one's surprising, Arkansas, California, the District of Columbia, Minnesota, and Oregon, Colorado, Indiana, and Maine, and Vermont, with this option. And each state has their own requirements, but yeah, that one just seemed a little interesting. And in Norway, there is a beluga whale. That is raising the hackles of some people.
Why? What? How can a whale piss anybody off? It's a whale. I mean, it's a whale. 2, it's cute. 3, it's environmental. It checks all the boxes.
The said beluga whale has a Russian harness on it.
Oh. It's one of them assassin whales. I heard about assassin dolphins, but this must be an assassin whale.
I think it is. I didn't see any laser beams on it, but...
Mini-me, stop pumping the laser.
From the AP, Copenhagen, Denmark, a beluga whale found with a tight harness that appeared to be Russian-made has raised the alarm of Norwegian officials and prompted speculation that the animal may be coming from a Russian military facility.
Or Aquaman got a discount on his harness.
What's that?
I said, or Aquaman got a discount on his harness because it came from Russia.
It very well could have been. Jorgen Rewig. Jorgen from Denmark. Jorgen Rewig. Let's try that again. Of the Norwegian Directorate of Fisheries says, equipment St. Petersburg is written on the harness strap, which features the mount for a action camera. So I'm thinking somebody slapped a GoPro on this son of a bitch.
GoPro-ish, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, GoPro-ish. He said Monday that fishers in the Arctic Norway last reported a tame white whale with a tight harness swimming around on Friday. Fisherman Jor Heston aided with Rewig and jumped into the frigid waters to remove said harness. So they are saying now that people in Norway's military is showing great interest. I mean, think about it. Is this not a good prank to pull on a neighboring country when you're somebody like Russia, even if it's inadvertent? It's
probably going to come out like 2 weeks from now, like the St. Petersburg SeaWorld-ish was like trying to do some underwater filming with their GoPro-ish. Now, for those you don't know, I got these. They're called 4K action cameras. I got them off eBay. They're $25. And that's actually, I have one shooting the TV. That's how you can see Gordon tonight. They look just like the Hero ones, but they're Android operating systems. They're $25 and they shoot in 4K. So I jokingly call them GoPro-ishes. Actually, here, hold on. Keep talking.
Anyway, so they're really thinking that this could be a Russian military deal. I don't think it's the case. I think some kids or even maybe a zoologist or somebody who's hanging out wanting to watch the habits of beluga whale.
See, this
had
looks
this-
like a GoPro, but this is a GoPro-ish. It's an Android operating system. $25.98, including shipping on eBay. I have two of them. I bought three. I gave one to my dad. They're super cheap. At $25, they're damn near disposable. But, yeah. This is probably what they had strapped to the damn thing. Hence the action camera, because these are actually called 4K action cameras. So when you go to eBay, just Google 4K action camera and you'll see them. So, yeah, it's probably just one of these generic-ass GoPro-ishes strapped to the beluga whale from the St. Petersburg. Well, it wouldn't be SeaWorld. It's probably some other communist name for it. But the People's Republic of Underwater Life.
Yep, exactly. It's amazing how something small can get blown out of proportion.
Well, the joke could be on us, and they have a army of underwater laser beam carrying beluga whales.
That's what it's sounding like. Maybe they're
because I think the hypothesis was during World War II they're trying to, the Germans or maybe even us were trying, or maybe it was one of those failed weapons of World War II, but the concept was to train dolphins to plant mines on submarines and boats from underneath the water.
Exactly. So now that's moving on to another story off the AP. There's a mystery we've got to unravel, and it's whether a cow farts. So,
I'm sure Cowboy, if he was listening, which is another reenacting buddy of mine, could easily answer that question. I thought cows do fart. I thought that's what was causing global warming. I thought Al Gore and everybody else has already proven that. Why are we questioning it now?
Well, let's clear the air about cow farts. In the climate change debate, some policymakers seem to be bovine flatulence deniers.
They have like 14 stomachs. It only makes sense that they would fart.
Oh, yeah, I think all living things fart. This has
Why
become
not? We all poop.
apparent. This has become apparent in a fuss over the New Green Deal that was pushed forward by some liberal Democrats. Most precisely, the fuss is over the information sheet provided by the plan's advocates. With tongue-in-cheek or foot-in-mouth, depending on whom you ask, the statement's author said, despite the plan's proposal for strong limits on emissions over a decade, we aren't sure that we're fully able to get rid of farting cows and airplanes that fast. So exasperated by the merciless mocking from the Republicans on this matter, Democrat Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan lectured the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on the floor of the chamber last month. The Republican majority said that we wanted to end air travel and cow farts. By the way, just for the records, cows don't fart, they belch. That was her retort. Fun fact, they do both, just like everything else in the world. So it's just funny seeing that people up on the Hill getting into these arguments and
because they have nothing else to do. They're trying to justify their full-time pay. There's no reason that every time, Benjamin Franklin even said, every time Congress convenes, we lose more and more of our freedoms. The role of a politician was never meant to be a full-time job, but that's what it is now, and that's why we're constantly having all these bullshit laws passed, because they got to justify their full-time salary and the fact that once they retire, they get extreme, super fantastic health care until the day they die.
Yeah, the health care that they should have taken when they signed on with the current one. But that's neither here nor there. And now the story that D-Train wants to discuss. Florida House panel approves guns for teachers. A Florida House committee voted Thursday for a broad school safety bill that would expand existing holy cow, it's been a long day, Guardian program to allow classroom teachers to volunteer to carry weapons on campus if local school boards approve.
And that's key. You don't have to read the rest. That is key. If local school boards approve. Well, here's what Lee County schools did. They weren't too thrilled with this, and rightfully so. I mean, I know a lot of teachers. I don't know how many of them I would trust with firearms around children, but I do know and it's probably in that story if you want to read ahead silently until you find the answer, but it requires an inordinate amount of training. I mean,
144 hours.
144 hours of trigger time, right? Not just classroom, but trigger time?
Yeah, it is 144 hours of fire alarm training. They must possess a valid concealed weapon permit and pass both a psychological evaluation and a drug test.
So after you do all that, in Lee County, that does not apply to teachers who are in a room with a student 90% of the day. Once again, that doesn't. If you are a teacher who is in a room with a student for 90% of the day, you are not eligible for that program. And here's why. And if you are eligible, meaning you're only around students 10% of the day, i.e., gym coach, custodians, lunch ladies, what have you. Not that maybe the gym coach would apply, but clearly the janitor staff and the lunch ladies wouldn't. But if for some reason, maybe you're a tutor or a special education teacher, anyhow, if for some reason you are a teacher, a member of the union, and you're only around students 10% of the day, and you opt into that, you are kicked out of the union because you become a liability and they cannot insure you. So, if for some reason you do work in that environment and you are Pro 2A, you feel it's your duty to protect your kids, that you're only around 10% of your day, you put in the 100 and how many hours?
144.
144 hours. You've done the psychological evaluation. You've done everything that the state of Florida requires you to do to prove that you are not a nut and that you're a responsible firearm owner. You do all that, and then they tell you, well, you're a liability, the union drops you, and you're no longer on our insurance. How many people do you think are going to volunteer to do that?
Absolutely none.
Exactly. So, yes, state of Florida passed it, whether you're for it or not. It's not the debate in this particular question. It's just interesting how there's always a way to shut things down if you're not for it.
Yeah, there's always ways to shut it down. And even if that didn't get shut down that way, it would go to court and you name it, you know.
I forget what school district it is. It may be over near Miami. I think it's a charter school district, but I do know there was one here in Florida that decided the better option, instead of arming the teachers, and instead of trying to hire more resource officers, is they were hiring retired military personnel, especially those with special forces training, to basically come and be armed guards at their schools. So not only are they protecting their students from would-be douchebags who want to harm innocent people, but they're also providing jobs with benefits for military veterans.
Yeah, and as long as they pass a psychological background, you know, and everything else, I don't see a problem with that at all.
Nope, not at all.
But we're out of touch.
Yeah, out of time.
And out of time?
Unless you have one more story to hit.
Now that's all I have for this episode's news and shit.
Once again, if you guys are tuning in late and you're looking at the live feed and you're saying, oh, Dave missed the show again. No, he didn't. I told him to stay home. He's got some serious stuff going on with his family. Like I said, it's not my place to talk about it, but if you listen to last week's podcast, he kind of hinted around what's going on. He said, hey, I can get the car. He let me know what was going on, said I can come over. I said, no, dude, this is by no means a priority, so stay home. Take care of the things you got to take care of. Prayers to you and yours. And so, no, Dave is not out Daving around. Dave's not shirking his duties, not turning his back on you guys. He was going to be here. I told him to stay home to focus on what's going on there. So hopefully things will turn around and he'll be back on his normal rotation, whether it's Stan and Haney or here or where have you. So just send some wishes and prayers his way. This episode has been brought to you by our friends at Act Computers. Act Computers has been specializing in small business networking, maintaining, and building, as well as veterinarians and other small businesses. They also do residential repair as well. Anything tech related. If you've got a new smart TV you need hung on your wall, you need it configured, they can help you with that. Your wife spilled wine on the keyboard again, they can help you with that. data recovery, two-form factor authentication for remote software. They can help you with that. Online backups, they can help you with that. Antivirus, anything you need, give them a call at 239-283-1120. That's 239-283-1120. Now, this is the part where I pretend to be you, trying to say to me, hey, D-Train, I want to help support your show, but I don't live in Southwest Florida. I can't use that computer. Yes, you can. As long as you have an internet that works and you're having problems with your computers, they can help you out. Give them a call at 239-283-1120. They will guide you to their website. They'll tell you to click on the blue little laptop that says Connect Now. That'll download the software. You give them the code, and voila, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. They're logged into your computer. They can help you with your issues. So you don't have to live here in Southwest Florida.
I'm sorry, not step on you, but I use Viperware through Act Computers.
Viper Endpoint Security.
Viper Endpoint Security.
Yep.
You are correct.
So give them a call or hit them up on Facebook and Twitter. And especially with what's going on with our friends. And Chopper called in. Chopper recently had some heart issues. That's why he made the joke about he goes home and whines it every night. Life is short. Life is quick. Do what you got to do. Take care of your friends and family. But just as important, take care of yourself. My biggest concern is I'm going to get to be in my 80s and think of all the stuff that I didn't do or didn't try to do. So go out and try to do as many new things as you can while still taking care of your commitments. Do what you got to do to be happy, to make people around you happy, because life is short and one day you may wake up dead. Gordon, you got anything?
Just seize that moment and do something positive every day.
Okay, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Easiest way to get there is through d-410.com, because every one of those channels has a different name. I think my Instagram is at dtrain410. I'm really trying to build my Instagram audience. It's coming up pretty good, but so if you're on Instagram, you haven't followed me, please follow me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well, Twitter. I don't do Snapchat. I don't do any of that other stuff. I'm too old for that crap. But follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Gordon?
Aegis 1974 at Instagram. My old Big G page, I think it's finally been deleted, so I will. It took 15 days. I will
write that down on your list of shit next week, and we'll try to come up with a name, or we'll just keep your real name and go from there.
That sounds good.
Okay. Later, y'all.
Solid like the rock.